approximately 9:30 a.m., two violent bank robbers, Larry Phillips and Emil Matasareanu, have already injured almost a dozen police officers and several citizens outside the Bank of America in North Hollywood, California.
It was a war. It was a battle. This was 45 minutes of ongoing automatic weapon fire. Casualties coming, one after the other.
Police dispatch calls for more units. The number of police swells to over 350. But law enforcement can't terminate the standoff. At 9:35 a.m., Matasareanu abandons the money bag and sits inside the getaway vehicle.
I think they dropped the money because this was the first time they had been heavily engaged by anybody shooting back at them.
One wants to leave and the other one's having too good of a time shooting, or maybe he tactically believes he needs to shoot some more before he tries to get away.
Phillips even shoots at police and news helicopters. At one point, Phillips retrieves an H&K 91 assault rifle with .308 caliber rounds, even more deadly than the AK-47.
If somebody has a shot, take it. Press the catch.
While police fire deflects the robbers' attention, Van Nuys officers Todd Schmitz and Anthony Kabunik attempt to rescue wounded officer Martin Whitfield. But as they enter the strike zone, they discover Officer Stuart Guy pinned down in the parking lot.
There's Anthony Kabunik and Todd Schmitz lift Stuart into the back of the police car and backed out of that parking lot as fast as they could. Without regard for their own safety, those two officers basically braved the gunfire to find downed officers.
Officer Schmitz and Kabunik then hear a distressing call from the dentist's office. They drive back through the kill zone to rescue Officer Zaborovan and Detective Krulak.
I remember, laying face down on the gurney in the back of the ambulance, screaming in pain. There was one bullet that lodged right at my hip bone. That bullet was surgically removed, and then I received roughly 70 or 80 stitches to sew up the wounds. Not at one point did I believe that I was going to die.
Officer Martin Whitfield, who's still pinned down behind a tree, is clinging to life.
999, hang in there. 9837 is almost there.
99, thank you. Thank you for talking.
So I had resigned myself to the fact that there were people that were dead. We didn't know about it, and we would just do the best we could with what was left.
The police grow desperate.
They notified officers are looking for guns, short now.
We need long guns. We need to defeat the threat. Some of our gang officers and our detectives went to BNB Guns Code 3.
One officer is at a gun store getting several AR-15s for the unit.
The cops borrow several assault rifles with .223 caliber ammo. But by the time they're deployed, the first SWAT unit arrives.
Our supervisor got on the air and told us not to deploy our MP5, which is a 9mm round, which their body armor would defeat, but to deploy our assault rifles, which is a .223, which their body armor would not defeat.
9:48 a.m. The four-man SWAT unit drives to the south side of the bank. They will use a covert strategy to apprehend the suspects. But first, they want to rescue the wounded from the kill zone. One of the SWAT officers jumps out and helps police commandeer an armored truck.
Somehow communicated with the driver, we need your truck, and he called into his headquarters. And apparently they were watching the shootout on television as it was being broadcast and said, yeah, if they want to use it, let them use it.
Laurel Canyon, Archwood, north of Archwood, 30 yards on Laurel Canyon.
The armored truck transports police into the death zone to search for Officer Martin Whitfield, who's been bleeding for over 30 minutes. He's not responding.
9089, 9037 is almost there. Hang in there. 9089, 9089, come in.
9:53 a.m. Police pour out of the armored truck and rescue Officer Martin Whitfield, who's barely conscious. He's transported to the hospital for surgery on his fractured leg and other wounds. Whitfield will survive. While the armored truck rescues victims, the gunmen are fleeing the bank's north parking lot. Phillips continues to fire rounds while he walks alongside the slowly moving getaway car driven by Matasareanu.
I'm going to guess is that one said get in the car and the other one said no, I'll provide the cover fire where you drive the car down the street.
It was like, oh my God. It's not ending. It won't stop. It won't end.
The thing that scared me the most was that these two guys, who were clearly the worst people I had ever dealt with, the most dangerous, the most violent, were going to get away.
Roger that at Long Island. The vehicle is not coming out. He may be hit. The other suspect is walking on the east side of the vehicle. He's taking everybody down.
Everybody down, shots are being fired. One suspect is possibly injured inside the vehicle and one is outside the white vehicle to the rear of the bank.
Phillips appears unfazed as officers shoot out the tires on the getaway car.
We've got one suspect on foot. We've got one suspect driving the white vehicle.
Matasareanu continues to drive, while Phillips ducks behind a tractor trailer.
The suspect on foot is behind a long truck trailer rig.
We left the backyard and we headed up the street to cut them off. I was met by Officer Caparelli, who was running away from the corner and shooting back behind him. He ran by me. I said, what are you shooting at? He said, there's another one. He's under that truck.
I don't remember exactly what I told him, but that's at that last few moments when Larry Phillips was walking towards us. I said, this is it. I'm going to feel him hit me. I'm going to go down right here. And the second I turned, there was actually a fire hydrant right to my left. And I just jumped over the hydrant and I ran across the street.
The cold-blooded killer fires his AK-47, but the weapon jams. Police call it a stovepipe jam.
A stovepipe is a very common malfunction, and it's where the empty shell casing doesn't completely eject and is just hanging there like a stovepipe. To clear it, you just need to hit that thing, and the gun's ready to operate.
But instead of clearing it, Phillips abandons his jammed AK-47 and pulls out his 9mm handgun. The homicidal maniac now engages officers at the corner of Archwood and Agnes.
Here's Larry Phillips now with a handgun walking toward me. We engaged each other again.
When he came into view, the first thing I realized is he's got a handgun just like mine. That made me feel very relaxed, that now it's even, and I returned fire.
Officers fire at Phillips. One round strikes his hand. He drops his gun. Then he picks it up, points it under his chin, and squeezes the trigger. At the same moment, a police bullet rips through his shoulder and severs his spine.
Do I wonder if any of my bullets hit him? Well, we know that something knocked the gun out of his hand. Could it have been one of my bullets? I like to think so.
Did Phillips kill himself or accidentally pull the trigger?
Larry Phillips had made the comment that he would never be taken alive. He lived up to what he said.
I don't believe he was giving up. I believe that he was trying to reload that weapon one-handed.
I think he accidentally pulled the trigger. I think he wanted to continue to fire, and he would take as many cops with him as he could.
9:53 a.m. One gunman is eliminated. The other is still on the run.